welcome to BYJU'S exam prep. Today we are going to discuss a passage on the biggest controversy of the world right now, Israel-Palestine controversy, Israel-Hamas conflict. अब ये इंटरनेशनल लॉ का पार्ट है. सो most of the students are confused कि मैम apart from these 4 conventional laws that we have to study, constitution, criminal, contracts and torts, इसके अलावा miscellaneous में हम क्या क्या पढ़ें, फैमिली लॉ में क्या पढ़ें, इंटरनेशनल में क्या पढ़ें. और मैं काफ़ी बार बता चुकी हूँ कि कन्वेंशनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से फैमिली और इंटरनेशनल उतना रेलेवेंट नहीं रहता है. आई मीन इफ़ यू गो बाय द हिंदू मैरिज एक्ट और शरिया और मुस्लिम मेंटेनेंस, women protection, etc., they do not hold that much significance because they would not ask you or give you passages from those acts or those laws, but they would give you something which is happening. So when it comes to miscellaneous or laws other than these 4 giants that we have to study, you need to pay attention to what is happening around these laws. Now, from an international perspective, I don't expect you to take up Stark and start reading all about international law. Please don't do that. मत करना ऐसा, ठीक है? लेकिन इंटरनेशनल लॉ के पर्सपेक्टिव से दुनिया में क्या चल रहा है भाई, और यही पैसेज में पूछा जा सकता है. तो अगर इंटरनेशनल लॉ से कुछ आना होगा तो ये तो आ ही जाएगा, है ना? इसीलिए हम इसे पढ़ रहे हैं. अब I am aware that many of you might not even be aware of what this conflict is because it is very complicated and the history is extremely old. 1967 से पहले की हिस्ट्री चल रही है, तब से चल रहा है सब कुछ, और अब फाइनली बिल्कुल गटमट हो गया है सब कुछ, राइट? सो I'm sorry, I'm speaking a lot of Hindi. What I'm saying is that, the history dates back to a lot of decades. So it's not a new conflict, it's rather a very old conflict that is now taking up, that has taken up a bigger shape, that has gained so much importance, that has become so huge that it is now, impossible to ignore it. And that is the reason why everyone is talking about it. Countries are taking their own stands. India, since 1948, there is a stand that India maintains that Israel and Palestine should be separate countries because Palestine is a country that United Nations doesn't even recognize as a country. What I'm trying to tell you simply is that this is a complicated topic regarding international law. There are many aspects and it might confuse a lot of you as to what to study in this, right? इसमें से क्या पढ़ना है? What exactly is important? Should we begin from the history and where do we end? Where do we start from? So in order to make this easy for you, I have decided to come up with a short video, right? So in that short video, I shall explain everything in short, not in extreme details, but everything that I believe that you ought to know about this massive happening or event, right? So yes. अब यहाँ पे हम जो है कोई बात नहीं, अब even if it is happening right now, I will still tell you, okay? मैम आई हैं तो मैम सारी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर देंगी, है ना? I am your problem solver. So I'll give you everything relating to this in a short video. It would be a video or a short depending on how much I need to speak, or you can read or you can watch that passage in order to gain understanding over this entire conflict, and then you can solve the passage also. So it's a win-win situation. So CLAT ke point of view say it's not just the information you need to practice that information in a certain format. So now you have the concept also and you have a passage also to practice that concept, right? So let us begin without wasting time. पहले practice कर लेते हैं. Now, before we begin, everyone should know that we have started a crash course, right? Since your exam is right here, October has come to an end. You only have a month remaining for your CLAT. I know most of you require a very good revision so as to, revise all the concepts that you have studied, everything. So the crash course is going to start from 1st November on BYJU'S exam prep and CLAT YT channel, log YT channel. So we would conduct classes every day in this course, right? All you need to do is just attend the sessions and I guarantee you that at least 50% of your syllabus will be covered and about 100% revised. So the students starting from the scratch, obviously there is, a lot of effort that you have to put in yourself. Faculties or, the best of mentors can only give you about 50-60%. बाकी 50-40% आपको खुद ही लगाना पड़ता है. तो अगर आप वो खुद लगा चुके हैं तो 50% हम आपको दे देंगे. बाकी थोड़ा सा बच्चे कुछ टाइम में 20-30% आप अपने आप से मैनेज कर लीजिए. क्लैट क्वालिफाई हो जाएगा आपका इस क्रैश कोर्स से. And the students who are only revising, who have done everything, your 100% revision would be done by this crash course. So do attend it, do not miss it. बहुत बहुत कम अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिलती हैं कि क्रैश कोर्स मिल रहा है, वो भी फ्री में सब कुछ, राइट? सो डू अटेंड इट. Now coming the All India Open Mock, I don't know how many of you have taken it. I emphasized it properly. You need to take it, right? Also, there's a scholarship test on 29th of October, 11 AM. Do take that. Test series के बारे में आपको पता ही है. Coming to our passage, I am not going to interfere. You are required to read, and there's a surprise at the end. Let's start. Let me know when you're done. Are we done? Now we are going to discuss some examples through this passage, some examples of the gross violations of fundamental humanitarian law principles in the conflict are. What are they? Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Moving on. These are the examples. Distinction between civilians and combatants. Attacks are considered unlawful if they are directed specifically against civilians, launched indiscriminately without distinction between civilians and combatants. Exactly what happened when, there were rockets striking on Israel, and of course Israel fighting back in Gaza, or directed at military targets but anticipated to cause harm to civilians disproportionate to the military advantage being sought. Now we have methods of warfare. It is unlawful. What method is unlawful? It is unlawful to conduct war in a manner that causes unnecessary suffering. Attacks targeting civilians are fundamentally unnecessary and therefore illegal. Most of the combat on an international level happens because of the politics involved. Civilians hardly ever have a role to play. But when such situations take a gruesome, form, and that form starts affecting individuals who are not participating in it in any way, then it becomes an unlawful method of warfare. वो लोग जिनका उस पूरी जंग से, उस पूरी लड़ाई से, उस पूरी की पूरी पॉलिटिक्स से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, उनको टारगेट अगर आप कर रहे हैं या फिर उन पे आप अननेसेसरी वायलेशंस, अननेसेसरी वायलेंट अटैक्स कर रहे हैं, तो फिर वो अनलॉफुल है, इलीगल है, एंड इट इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी काइंड ऑफ अ crime which is internationally recognized. It is a crime which is deemed to be an activity which is criminal in every economy, by every nation of this world, right? आगे बढ़े? Should we move forward? Shall we move forward? I am moving forward. Collective punishment. The fourth Geneva Convention prohibits collective punishment. No protected person may be punished for an offense he or she has not personally committed. Collective penalties and likewise all measures of intimidation or of terrorism are prohibited. This prohibition reflects the idea of individual criminal responsibility under international criminal law. Now, a very interesting concept. International law does not work on a collective punishment. Every individual is responsible for his or her own activities. So just because you somehow participated in a rally does not make you a criminal. right? So let's say that there was a rally which was deemed criminal, or which was being monitored or supervised, or being, under a charge of a person who is being charged for international crimes. Then just because you participated in it, or just because you heard the speech, does not make you a criminal. That's what this stanza is saying. कि भाई लेट्स से कि कोई एक इंटरनेशनली रिकॉग्नाइज्ड क्रिमिनल है, उसने पब्लिकली कोई भाषण दिया, लोग देखने के लिए आ गए. अब वहां पे खड़े हुए लोग भी क्रिमिनल नहीं हो जाएंगे. वो आदमी क्रिमिनल है, उसकी अपनी इंडिविजुअल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है फॉर एवरीथिंग दैट ही डज. बट वहां पे जो खड़े हुए लोग थे, नॉर्मल सिविलियंस थे, जिन्हें कुछ पता आता नहीं था कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं, क्या बोल रहे हैं, सुनने के लिए आ गए, वो क्रिमिनल नहीं होंगे. एवरीवन हैज टू बियर her own responsibility. You are not liable collectively. The aspect of section 34, common intention, right, and section 141, unlawful assembly, these both concepts are based on common intention and common object, collective responsibility under Indian Penal Code. These two sections, or the principle or the underlying foundation of these two principles, these two sections, does not apply in international law. Okay, आगे पढ़ लेते हैं. Humanitarian protection. Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions require humane protection for all people in enemy hands. It prohibits murder and hostage taking, requires the provision of humanitarian assistance to all people without distinction. Right. So if you have studied history thoroughly, you must have taken that previously when wars used to happen, these war heroes, or the people who won the war, used to take people also, took slaves. Right. जंग में जीतने वाले को सिर्फ लूट नहीं मिलती थी, सोना चांदी हीरे मोती, उसे लोग भी मिलते थे. तो वो उस देश से हॉस्टेजेस, औरतें बच्चे, लोगों को भी ले जाते थे, उनको गुलाम बना लेते थे. राइट. तो ये अब नहीं हो सकता. in a world which is more or less democratic, in a world which is commonly governed by international practices and regulations, this cannot happen anymore. Right. So this is what the Article 3 of the Geneva Convention prohibits completely, and this is one of the article which is non-violable. It cannot be violated. Anybody doing it is waging war against the World Security Council पे direct attack होगा ये. राइट. तो इसको वायलेट आप नहीं कर सकते. आप स्लेव्स, हॉस्टेजेस नहीं लेकर जा सकते. ओके. ये नेशंस की सॉवरेनिटी पर डायरेक्ट अटैक होता है, विच इज नॉट अलाउड एनी मोर. ओके, एवरीवन क्लियर? गुड. मूविंग ऑन. पैसेज से ही कितना कुछ समझ जाते हो तुम, बाकी देखो वीडियो से भी समझ जाओगे. Obligations of occupying powers. Israel is a de facto occupying power of the Gaza Strip because it has such a high level of control over people's lives. For example, it has ability to shut off supplies of essential life services. These include an obligation to protect civilians from attacks and respect their human rights. Gaza Strip जो है map पे, I'm explaining a little bit side by side, so pay attention. Gaza Strip, if you look at Gaza Strip in the map, बहुत ही clearly demarcated बना हुआ है. इजराइल यहाँ पे है, ठीक है, यहाँ पे बड़ा सा एरिया है, and this is what is recognized as Palestine. मतलब it is very difficult to locate it because there are many areas in this area which is controlled by Israel also. तो it is as if कि एक ही देश में आप मूव करेंगे, उसी कभी इजराइल आ जाएगा, कभी पैलेस्टीन आ जाएगा, कभी इजराइल आ जाएगा, कभी पैलेस्टीन आ जाएगा. राइट. सो that is exactly very controversial. Now Gaza Strip is completely different. यहाँ पे इसको ब्लॉकेड कर रखा है, बहुत हाई ब्लॉकेड है. एक तरफ से इजराइल ने ब्लॉक कर रखा है, एक तरफ से इजिप्ट ने ब्लॉक कर रखा है. राइट. तो इनको इकोनॉमिकली भी कट कर रखा है इजराइल ने. ओके. Now, because of the fact that they are being economically cut from the rest of the world, the rate of unemployment in this country is very high. So people, now the problem is that, there is now comes the presence of Hamas. There are some countries that recognize it as a militant or a terrorist group, but there are some countries which do not recognize it as a militant or a terrorist group. उनमें से चाइना, टर्की भी हैं जो नहीं recognize करती. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब यहाँ पे क्या है कि जब इजराइल ने इसको पूरी तरह से दुनिया से काट रखा है, तो इजराइल की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है कि वो इसके लोगों को प्रोटेक्ट भी करे. यही ये पैसेज कह रहा है कि गाजा स्ट्रिप में सारी की सारी पावर इज बीइंग कंट्रोल्ड बाय अ कंट्री. नाउ सोचने वाली बात है दैट इफ यू आर कंट्रोलिंग an entire nation, you're not giving them anything, you have economically cut them, you're not allowing them to become part of the rest of the world. The rate of unemployment is going high and high. People who want to help people in this country, मतलब countries जो help aid वगैरह offer करना चाहती हैं, people do not get that aid also because that aid is being used by Hamas. And they use that help to buy weapons and rocket launchers and all of those war weapons and everything. तो वो पैसा जो मदद के लिए जाना चाहिए वो एक मिलिटेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अपने वॉर को फैसिलिटेट करने के लिए यूज कर लेता है. इजराइल इस चीज को रोक नहीं रहा है, इकोनॉमिकली काट रखा है, कुछ भी नहीं है इस देश में. सो व्हेन यू आर you have completely taken control over people's lives, you are responsible for making sure that their lives are protected as well. And that is what this passage or this particular sub passage is saying. Everyone understood? सबको समझ आ गया? Everyone? Any doubt? किसी को डाउट है? जल्दी से बता दो, अभी मैं फिर से समझा देती हूँ. I'm not going into excessive details, I'm only cross referring. ठीक है? All the details will be given in that video. I shall be releasing it very shortly. अब आता है Hamas and humanitarian law. Humanitarian law. It's very difficult for me to pronounce some words, and that includes this humanitarian. Utilitarian बड़ी आसानी से बोल लेती हूँ मैं, ये नहीं बोला जाता मुझसे. International humanitarian law applies to all combatants, whether they are state or non-state actors. Non-state actors, Hamas is one of them. All the terrorist organizations, militant organization, extreme right wings, all of them are considered non-state actors. Okay. इनको भी इंटरनेशनल ह्यूमैनिटेरियन लॉ इन पर भी अप्लाई करता है. इवन इफ यू आर अ मिलिटेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, तालिबान वगैरह जैसे, आप लोगों को ह्यूमंस ही ट्रीट करोगे. यू कैन नॉट बी unnecessarily or you cannot just treat them like animals just because you are a non-state actor, just because you do not follow the principles of democracy and such. You still would have to treat them as humans. Human rights apply to everyone. UN independent experts say Hamas has clearly committed war crimes, including the murders and hostage taking of Israeli civilians. Hamas also put Palestinian civilians in harm's way by telling them not to evacuate the southern Gaza as ordered by Israel. अल-अक्सा जो मॉस्क था, उसकी कहानी से ये एक्चुअली हमास और इजराइल के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट शुरू हुआ. ठीक है, तो आई टेल यू मोटा मोटा. अल-अक्सा में क्या हुआ? Am I pronouncing it right? The mosque's name was Al-Aqsa, right? मैं गलत भी हो सकती हूँ कई. I generally get confused in names. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Gauri, am I pronouncing it right? Al-Aqsa. अस्का है वो, अक्सा नहीं है. Okay. So Al-Aqsa, yes. So Al-Aqsa mosque में there were people who were praying. Now Israelite soldiers, they went to the mosque and started hitting those people who were praying with rubber bullets and stun grenades. Al-Aqsa है, Al-Aqsa ही है. Okay, Al-Aqsa. So I was right. Now the problem was that the people and the Israeli soldiers contended that because we anticipated them and we sort of subdued them because we had the information that they had stones with them. They were ready with stones, and the stones that they were about to pelter on the rallies which are शाउटिंग अरब्स के खिलाफ. जो भी शाउटिंग कर रहे थे वो अरब्स चले जाओ और उनके लैंड को, जूस और जो मुस्लिम कम्युनिटीज, अरब मुस्लिम कम्युनिटीज के बीच में जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा था उस टाइम पे, उस समय एक्सट्रीम राइट विंग्स, यू नो, दे वर प्रोटेस्टिंग अगेंस्ट अरब्स दैट दे शुड लीव द country, they should leave their land, and they are occupying it illegally and all of that, right? So the matter which should have been settled in court actually took a communal form, and people started getting into violent protests. Now Israeli soldiers said that we had an idea that they were going to pelter these rallies with stones, and that is why we took charge and subdued them, nipped the entire communal tension before it even arose. Now, you know, as the attack continued, Hamas took charge of the Palestinians and, you know, self-declaring them itself as representatives of Palestine. It gave an ultimatum to Israel that if you don't stop the attack, we'll start attacking you. Now, in that, Hamas started launching airstrikes in Israel. Rocket launch वगैरह की, हालांकि Israel has this dome which protects it against the outside rocket attacks. वो उसमें sky, even when before they touch the ground, they are apprehended in the sky itself. Right, but the strike was so, you know, there were so many rockets here, Iron Dome. So they were just, the attack was so massive that they could not apprehend all of it, and there were many people who died. And they, in retaliation, attacked, of course. Israel also attacked. Now everyone has their own defenses. कि यहाँ पे हमने ऐसे इसलिए किया. Israel said we attacked because Hamas attacked. Hamas says we attacked because you attacked Al-Aqsa Mosque. Al-Aqsa people said we were carrying stones because these people were shouting, you know, slogans against us. And then these people who are saying ki bhai we were shouting slogans, and they would start going to the 1967 war. वहाँ से मतलब it's endless. इसकी कोई limit नहीं है. If you allow these people to give defenses, they would be filled with defenses. हर किसी के पास बहाने तैयार है, right? अब यहाँ पे Hamas जो है, this is what the short thing is. Hamas also put Palestinian civils in harm's way by telling them not to evacuate the southern Gaza as ordered by Israel. The group has a history of using civilians as human shields as strategic tool in conflict with Israel. अब इसराइल को दबाने के लिए, इन इसराइल की पॉलिटिक्स को अफेक्ट करने के लिए, ये गाजा स्ट्रिप के लोगों को, स्पेशली जो सदर्न गाजा के लोग हैं, उनको इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं, उन्हें ह्यूमन शील्ड की तरह इस्तेमाल करते हैं, हॉस्टेजेस ले लेते हैं और इसराइल पे प्रेशर बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट दे आर डूइंग. ओके, सो दे आर बेसिकली आर liable for a lot of war crimes, including this. However, holding Hamas accountable for violating international humanitarian law is very challenging. As a non-state actor, Hamas is not a member of forums like United Nations, where pressure may be brought to bear member states. If individual Hamas militants are apprehended, they could be charged with war crimes in Israeli court or international criminal court. Even though Hamas is a non-state actor, Palestine has accepted the court's jurisdiction. In fact, the International Criminal Court opened an investigation into alleged war crimes in Palestine in 2021. The current Gaza conflict would fall within the court's mandate and could lead it to direct greater energy to that ongoing investigation. Right? The details of which would be given to you in the video. Ripple effect. Yes, Gauri, exactly. Now, Israel and humanitarian law. Israel and its allies also have a complex relationship with international humanitarian law. One key issue is Israel's right to self-defense in response to October 7 attack by Hamas, like I told you just now. Okay? Moving on. International law confirms a state may use force to defend itself in response to an armed attack. Israel, the United States and other allies contend that Hamas attack triggered Israel's right to self-defense. But there is a distinction to be drawn between states' right to self-defense and what that right permits in sense of how war is conducted. For example, UN independent experts have condemned Israel's indiscriminate military attacks against Palestinian civilians, like the one in Al-Aqsa Mosque. This amounts to collective punishment. There is no justification for violence that indiscriminately targets innocent civilians, whether by Hamas or by Israel forces. Exactly. This is absolutely prohibited under international law and amounts to a war crime. So it's not just Hamas which is liable for war crimes. Israel is not far behind. वो लोग भी कमी नहीं छोड़ रहे हैं किसी चीज को करने में. Okay? Sorry. Yes. Neither Israel nor United States is party to International Criminal Court. Acha, neither state would accept the court's jurisdiction over its nationals. Indeed, the United States has condemned the court's decision to open its investigation into alleged war crimes in Palestine. At this point, a sad reality is that international law and global institutions can do little to constrain the actions of combatants on both sides or provide assistance to the millions at grave risk of harm. Right, this is a wonderful article, very balanced. No, the author is not siding with anyone. It is not completely condemning Hamas and it is not completely condemning Israel. It is condemning both of their individual actions depending of what they were. तो बहुत ही balanced approach लेकर author चले हैं, किसी की तरफ नहीं है, and it was a very very good passage. It was a very good passage. Now, this passage is, one of those balanced passages that do not side with any nationality, that is just giving you facts, that is just providing you with a balanced outline of what is happening. इसी तरह के passages, these kinds of passages are preferred by consortium. Instead of a passage which is, giving a hashtag or which is facilitating a hashtag. तो इसी तरह के neutral passages आ सकते हैं कंसोर्शियम में, इसलिए इसे इंक्लूड किया गया है. अब हम आ जाते हैं क्वेश्चंस पर. नाउ आई एम गिविंग यू अ लिस्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. इट्स नॉट 5, 8, 10 क्वेश्चंस. दीज क्वेश्चंस आर मेनी. 10 से ऊपर क्वेश्चंस हैं. नाउ द थिंग इज दैट दीज क्वेश्चंस डू नॉट कम विद एन आंसर. नो आंसर. After you have watched the video, the short video that I have released, and after you have understood what is given in the passage, after you've completely understood this conflict, I would want you to solve these questions. Now, the answer key to this question will be released in my next session. और आपने कितने में से कितने क्वेश्चन सही किए वो आप आंसर की से मैच कर सकते हैं. And I have decided to incorporate this. I will not be giving you answers to any question anymore. All the answers would be released separately in an answers key, and you can match the answers. You can examine your performance, examine your knowledge, because most of these passages are based on current legal events. So how well versed are you with these current legal events? Hindu analysis part 12 के answers कब release होंगे? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I shall release those answers in the next session only. अलग अलग answer की I shall release. एक इसकी होगी और एक Hindu analysis की होगी. Right, so all the passages that I'm discussing, all the information that I'm discussing, all the probable questions that I'm discussing, you are required to solve those questions on your own. You devise the strategy, you understand how to solve those questions, and you can match your performance with the answer key. Trust me, the questions are absolutely correct. एक भी fault, these questions are created by me. तो ये questions बिल्कुल सही हैं, इनके answers गलत नहीं है. That answer key will be completely 100% accurate. So if you got your answer wrong, it's not because my answer is wrong. It's your answer that is wrong. Right, so make sure that you solve these passages. Now the passages that we are going to do throughout the November are going to be based on the most important information, and the answers and the questions that I give are very likely to be there in your examination. It's very important that you cover these sessions along with the questions so as to get familiar with what might happen in your exam. Okay, this is how you are going to revise and prepare now. Let us begin. You are saying B, we shall see. What is the primary focus of international humanitarian law? The justifications for combat, inevitability, the political implications, economic consequences, etc. Question number 2. Which of the following is considered a gross violation of fundamental humanitarian law principles in the context of methods of warfare? Given in the passage, very, very easy. What does the 4th Geneva Convention say about collective punishment? Okay, there's a mistake here. A hai ye, okay? It encourages collective punishment, remains neutral, prohibits, allows collective under certain circumstances. You are not answering questions here. You are to solve them on your own. Okay, जिसका परफॉर्मेंस अच्छा होगा वो अपनी तैयारी को समझ सकता है कि भाई मैं जीके में क्या प्रिपेयर कर रहा हूँ, लीगल रीजनिंग में अच्छी तैयारी जा रही है मेरी. Which organization opened an investigation into alleged war crimes in Palestine in 2021? Now, the information is given in the passage, but you might not have the same information in your consortium passage. In your actual exam, you might not have the information. ये एक knowledge based question है. इसकी information passage में हो सकती है, हो सकता है passage में ना भी हो. Right? So, of course, now here you know, but you might not everybody might know in the exam. According to the passage, does the International Criminal Court have jurisdiction over Israeli and United Nations? This is a CR based question. ठीक है, CR based questions कहीं से भी आ सकते हैं. CR is such a comprehensive topic that the questions might come from anywhere or any kind. Critical reasoning के questions are very likely to be there in your exam, and that is why I've included them in the passage as well. Now, CR based questions you need to figure out. Of course, the information is very well given in the passage. Read the passage, solve the question. Then we have, what stance does international law take on a state's right to self-defense in response to an armed attack? This is also a CR based question. You need to, this is basically based on how focused were you while reading the passage. So like I said, legal reasoning often works in your favor and you are able to achieve the maximum accuracy just by underlining the relevant part. So if you have underlined the relevant part, you can solve most of the questions, about 90% of them. And this is one of the questions. Okay. Then, who has been condemned by UN independent experts for indiscriminate military attacks against Palestinian civilians? Very, very easy, knowledge based भी है. अगर passage से निकल रहा है तो फिर, focus पे टेस्ट कर रहा है, CR भी हो सकता है, किसी भी कैटेगरी में आ जाएगा ये क्वेश्चन, depending on the information that is given in the passage. Purpose of international humanitarian law. International humanitarian law is primarily aimed at. This is the question. यहाँ से question शुरू होता है. International humanitarian law is primarily aimed at what? Deciding the reasons for engaging, limiting the weapons, determining the winners, reducing the impacts of war on people. All of these are based on how well you understand the passage. ये opinion question नहीं है. These are not opinionated questions. These are not asking your opinions. These are actually asking you facts. ये एक general opinion है. तो a general opinion becomes a fact. It is not subjective anymore. Unlawful attacks. According to the passage, which of the following attacks can be considered unlawful? अब जब हम समझ चुके हैं कि unlawful attack क्या होता है, तो हम options में से देखकर बता भी सकते हैं कि unlawful attack कौन सा होगा in given options में से. Israel's position. Israel's primary defense for its response to October 7th attack by Hamas is based on what? बहुत आसान है. Now that you understand the entire story which I told you, you can very easily answer this question, right? Protection under Geneva Convention. Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions primarily focuses on what? Article 3 हमने पढ़ी रखा है. Primarily वो किस चीज पे फोकस करता है? आप बहुत आसानी से, you can just read the article once again and you can answer the question. Sometimes all the question is asking you is to test you on the basis of your focus. So when you read the article, when you read the section, when you read the essentials, definition, concept, anything, how well did you understand it? Now they will shorten the entire article, section or concept in one line, paraphrase it into a single line and see if you can actually identify the principle from that single line. This is what consortium wants to test you upon. How focused are you? How well is your comprehension ability discussed? गौरी प्लीज डोंट आंसर राइट नाउ, डोंट, कोई बात नहीं, गौरी के आंसर जरूरी नहीं सही ही हो, यू नेवर नो, ठीक है। आंसर की जब तक नहीं आती तब तक यू कैन नॉट रियली से फॉर श्योर किसके आंसर सही है किसके नहीं है। तो गौरी दीदी को आंसर देने दो, इट्स ओके। War crimes, which of the following entities are mentioned in the passage has been accused of committing war crimes? बहुत आसान है, ऑप्शन ज्यादा आसान कर दिए मैंने। Now, accountability. Under the International Criminal Court, ICC, why might it be challenging to hold Hamas accountable for violations of international humanitarian law through certain global institutions? Why? It's very easy, given in the passage, given right in the passage. Might not be given in the passage, but since it is given in the passage, you can easily answer it. ठीक है? It's all about focus. सही underline किया कि नहीं, क्योंकि एक आध दो लाइन छूट जाती है जल्दी जल्दी पढ़ने में, और ये उसी तरह का क्वेश्चन है जो आपको वहीं टेस्ट कर लेता है कि सब पढ़ा कि नहीं। Israel and ICC. Why might Israel not be subject to prosecution by ICC for alleged war crimes? We know the reason why. United Nations will also not be subject to International Criminal Court prosecution for that very reason. As per the passage, what does the 4th Geneva Convention say about punishing an individual for an offense they have not personally committed? This is again the question. Which of the following best describes the legal obligation of an occupying power under international humanitarian law? ये difficult question है, just by the way. Let's see if you are able to answer it. Which of the following describes legal obligation of an occupying power under international humanitarian law? क्रैश कोर्स के बारे में मैं बता ही चुकी हूँ, मॉक के बारे में भी बता चुकी हूँ, स्कॉलरशिप के बारे में भी बता चुकी हूँ, and that is it. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you got the questions. I'm so sorry the slides got duplicated. I don't know how it happened, but it's okay. I mean, you can ignore it. But the fact is that you have a lot of questions, ठीक है, about 10-11 questions. अपने हिसाब से questions को समझ के आंसर करना है. आंसर की बहुत जल्दी आपके पास आएगी और उस आंसर की के हिसाब से आप मैथ you can just examine कौन से क्वेश्चन सही है कौन से क्वेश्चंस गलत हैं. Thank you guys. I shall see you again very soon. तब तक सब अपना ख्याल रखेंगे. Bye bye everyone. Tomorrow Hindu analysis on the app at 6 PM. The same exercise repeats. A very very important segment discussed along with questions, and do not miss these sessions anymore, guys. I'm telling you, they can actually place you in an advantage that you cannot even imagine. Thank you so much.